I am gaming. I am gaming. I am gaming podcast.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining me for the latest episode of I Am Gaming Podcast. This is a podcast about the video game industry, entrepreneurship, gaming nostalgia, and many more cool things I find to be in the same realm of business and creative ventures. This is episode 97, and a huge thanks, like always, goes to my Patreon supporters who make this podcast possible. Please check out all of their ventures. In the description below, they'll take you to things like YouTube channels, games, Twitch streams, and many more exceedingly cool stuff my Patreon supporters do. So give those a look, and again, a huge thanks to all of you for making I Am Gaming Podcast possible. In episode 97, I want to talk to you about a really big TV phenomenon that is currently taking place, and it's Squid Game, which is a South Korean TV show that is presently showing on Netflix, and which got people watching and which got people discussing the same show on social media and on many other forums, because it's a show just like that. Squid Game is a show that will draw you in and make you basically stay very invested in the characters, in the plot, and it does so through some really great narrative tricks that would be really useful for anyone who is writing or creating anything narratively driven or narratively based, like a video game or a TV show or even a novel. So Squid Game basically is a battle royale setup that involves a lot of ordinary people taking part in weird games with deadly outcomes. So basically it's death games, a genre that is pretty popular in Japan for a number of years. Battle Royale, as I said, is one of such movie which actually spawned the entire genre of Battle Royale even in gaming, but there are many others which present basically the same setup. A bunch of ordinary people getting together to play a game that has a deadly outcome and where people die out constantly. So what are these tricks that Squid Game pulls for its cast? So the first trick is basically the most important one. It creates a setup of people who are very two-dimensional or even one-dimensional. They are people that you get to know and figure out immediately. And this is really important because it's on one hand really banal and might turn off people initially somewhat, but it's a great platform to actually build upon through the TV show, through the course of the narrative development. So instead of giving you a lot of stuff immediately, it gives you a really basic things, like this person is a loser who is addicted to gambling. That's enough. From that platform, we get to build upon, and the TV show gets to build upon, from episode to episode, showing that there is a lot more behind that, giving that one-dimensional, two-dimensional character another dimension, another dimension, another dimension, and building it up so we actually get invested. We are discovering characters just as we are discovering the plot. And this reflects also into the visual, which is also a great narrative trick that the TV show pulls, is that the other side, the antagonists, are completely blank. They wear masks, but at the same time they have a system of hierarchy that we figure out without anyone needing to tell us that. So for example, people who wear masks, who have a circle, are basically servants. Those who have a triangle are gun people, they are armed, and those who have a square are people who are in command. They are some kind of a controller. This is something you figure out even before it's mentioned in any kind of capacity, and it also gets played upon through the course of the show. I don't want to spoil anything, but there is an element there with interchanging masks and everything else that is first completely blank. There is no mention of that, nothing happens, but then when we have that as a stable platform, just like with characters, the show builds upon further and uses it to kind of expand its plot, just like it uses its characters to expand its plot, as if they're all growing together from that really modest, really simple, really banal setup of having these characters basically as one-dimensional stereotypes. Soon they become anything but, and as that happens, you get a connection with the same characters from the audience. You're actually invested in the character, you want to figure out what happens and how do they behave during that process, because you're still unsure that you know them and you don't know all of the things that is happening basically behind the scenes in each of the characters. That's a great trick and one that really pays off. Finally, the main trick that the Squid Game has is that ability to have a mystery, which is what is the game, why is it happening, or individual games, who is running them, as something that you're not actually interested as the main driver of you watching the show. It's not like you want to go on Wikipedia, read about it, and get a aha moment and figure everything out. Instead, the thing that is actually driving you further is the exploration and reveal of the characters in this really unusual particular setup. And that, along with the first two tricks, is what creates this really compact, really strong and precise in many ways narrative setup that starts simple, expands further and further and further and further until it creates something that is nothing like the initial episode, for example. Even though it continues to have all of these elements, there isn't like a huge U-turn or anything like that. There are many narrative twists, but in any case, however the show ends, it won't be like it started. The characters will be complex, the storyline will be completely different than anything you might expect, even if it's something that you initially thought of when you started watching the show. And the payoff for the characters will be something that is probably unexpected in many ways as well. And that is great writing, great presentation, and great use of the narrative as something that is actually holistically blended with every other element of the show. So those are cool tricks. Those are tricks that you should consider while you write anything narratively based, including games and especially video games, because it's an awesome way to get people invested initially and keep coming back to learn more, to experience more. That's all for this episode. Again, check out Squid Game. It's a cool TV show. It's much better than you first might think of when you just check out the trailers or the promo material. And use these narrative tricks in your works of art. I know I will. That's all for episode 97. Thanks again for listening. I would love to hear what you think about Squid Games, or Squid Game again. And what do you think about the whole episode? Please leave a comment below. If you're a first time listener, please consider subscribing to my channel. And yeah, of course, check out my Patreon page. If you have a buck to spare, I would love to get that same buck. My name is Ivica. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you in precisely 7 days from now. Until then, bye bye.